Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And honestly, in this case, I don't know if this is hypocrisy as much as it's just a lack of ethics, a lack of basic morality, and just the ability to, be a decent human being, a good person. The left is always virtue signaling. They love to make the case that they're just such incredible people. But incredible, compassionate people don't do stuff like this. We're back on the topic of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's tweet from just the other day, where she made the claim that the ex-Marine Daniel Penny, who restrained Jordan Neely in the New York subway system, which led to him passing out and never waking up, him losing his life, she claimed that it was murder, not manslaughter, not an accident, but that the intent was to cause harm to this individual and take his life. She said that, of course, without any facts. She simply wanted to promote a narrative, to virtue signal about homeless people, and well, of course, when you speak out of your behind before the full facts and all the information is released, well, you tend to look like a damn fool now, don't ya? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, once again with egg on her face, looking like a complete sociopath, a total liar. There's some new footage that just got released to the media that completely obliterates the leftist narrative. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so let's first start off with AOC's tweet just the other day. AOC wrote, "Jordan Neely was murdered, but because Jordan was houseless and crying for food in a time when the city is raising rents and stripping services, to militarize itself while many in power demonize the poor, the murderer gets protected with passive headlines plus no charges. It's disgusting." Now, every single time I read this, I find more and more wrong with it. New York City is militarizing itself to demonize the poor. Jordan Neely was crying for food. Give me a freaking break. But the first sentence is really what we want to focus on. Jordan Neely was murdered. The implication here, this is a direct accusation, is that ex-Marine Daniel Penny meant to do it. He meant to cause harm to this person. Well, that narrative just fell apart entirely. Breaking. Full footage reveals ex-Marine Daniel Penny putting Jordan Neely in a, quote, recovery position. Passengers are complimenting him. Full footage that emerged on social media this Sunday revealed that Marine Corps veteran Daniel Penny had placed Jordan Neely in a recovery position after subduing him on the New York subway earlier this week. Jordan Neely, a 30-year-old violent homeless man and repeat offender with over 40 prior arrests, died on Monday after Penny, 24, had placed him into a chokehold on the F train. Neely had reportedly started behaving erratically and showing aggression towards other passengers. The unearthed full footage revealed passengers complimenting Penny for taking action. It also shows Penny and one other passenger arranging Neely's body in a recovery position in an attempt to ensure that he would be okay. A passenger off screen can be heard saying he'll be alright. Neely appears to be moving late in the video. Now, because of policy on the platform, I can't exactly show you guys the clip itself. I can, however, describe it, even though it's pretty obvious. The two individuals who subdued Jordan Neely let him go without issue and then attempted to put him in a recovery position. They stayed there on scene, trying to ensure and make sure that he was okay. And actually, oddly enough, after the incident, you do actually see Daniel Penny's entire chest portion move. It's almost as if he's taking a big, deep breath. Not exactly sure if that's a physical phenomenon. Whether he was deceased at the time, it's really impossible to tell unless you're an expert. But the core focus here is to focus on intent. The issue of manslaughter, I think that's a conversation that can be legitimately had, but murder, that takes it a step too far. The ex-Marine Daniel Penny, who was on scene, was being praised as heroic, as a hero essentially, by everyone on the train. Nobody was trying to flee the scene. People were trying to render aid. Once police officers and investigators made it on scene, Daniel Penny didn't try to flee accountability. He gave his side of the story, explained what happened, and he was subsequently let go. Just basic common sense and analysis of the events themselves lead you to believe that there was no malicious intent here. The narrative of this being a murder simply makes no sense. Yet people like AOC continue to double down. Here's a tweet from Ben Max, who released a quote from New York City Mayor Eric Adams. "Any loss of life is tragic. There's a lot that we don't know about what happened here, so I'm going to refrain from commenting further. However, we do know that there were serious mental health issues in play here, which is why our administration has made record investments in providing care to those who need it and getting people off of the streets and the subways and out of dangerous situations. And I need all elected officials and advocacy groups to join us in prioritizing getting people the care that they need and not just allowing them to languish." It's a pretty straightforward statement. I think that's probably probably what should be the focus here. Jordan Neely was clearly unwell, not coping well in society. People like that probably shouldn't be terrorizing the community, suffering psychological meltdowns in the subway system, randomly threatening and assaulting people on the streets. The issue is, and the focus should be, 100% mental health. AOC then responds, "This honestly feels like a new low, not being able to clearly condemn a, quote, public murder because the victim was of a social status some would deem too low to care about." The last sentence is especially rich from an administration trying to cut the very services that could have helped him. I mean, it's actually a grift. It's the sort of intersectionality pyramid. This individual was homeless, a person of color, therefore, no matter what, he's the victim. He's deemed too low to care about. That's the problem. No, that's in fact exactly what Eric Adams is talking about. Not to mention, Jordan Neely's social status was completely irrelevant here. He could have been a middle-class white male, and the reaction probably would have been the same if he was threatening violence and making terroristic threats to everyone in a subway cart. It's completely absurd. But the grift, of course, continues. Al Sharpton is calling for charges, or for Jordan Neely to face a grand jury.
The victim here had mental health issues, but that it was certainly not something that should have sentenced him to death. And I think that many of us have taken that position in the civil rights community. I know National Action Network has, that you cannot let this go unaccounted for without really opening the door to legitimizing and giving a basis of vigilantism. This young man, unarmed, did nothing to anyone, didn't assault anyone, was disruptive, which happens every day in subways, and you're going to put him in a chokehold and hold him there for minutes at a time while two other people hold him down and him. This person should face a grand jury and the two people with him.
The most dishonest and unethical grifters of all time. There's a lot of things to be frustrated about. There's a lot of actual grievances that people can legitimately hold. This shouldn't be one of them. The only reason it is, of course, is because of the racial element, the racial grift, another despicable element. I mean, the audacity of these people to not only call this a murder, but then go as far to claim that it's a racially motivated murder, essentially proves to you how bad they are. I mean, let's really put it into perspective. The Jordan Neely incident happens, AOC claims that it's a murder with absolutely no evidence. She claims that nobody cares about Jordan Neely, and that somehow it's justified and people are going soft on Daniel Penny simply because Jordan Neely's social status was deemed too low for people to care about. And then her and her friends claim that actually it was a racially motivated attack and somehow it has something to do with Black Lives Matter and the persecution and dehumanization of black people. Could you imagine yourself doing that? I simply can't. You have to either be the most deluded person on planet Earth to do something like that, or just a terrible human being. And then, of course, when the actual video drops and it turns out that people are actually being quite compassionate, that pretty much everyone in the subway cart felt the exact same way, that this man had to be subdued. Someone had to stop him. They were cheering on the individuals who restrained him. They put him in a recovery position. They said, he's going to be all right. He's going to be all right. Clearly, if it had been a murder, people would be horrified. The entire subway cart wouldn't be feeling all one specific way about the situation. Clearly, the facts here lead to only one possible logical explanation. Of course, it's the absolute simplest explanation. First off, New York needs to start actually addressing the issue of homeless lunatics on the streets assaulting people. Police need to start doing their job. The city and the state need to start spending resources on taking these people off the streets, whether that means putting them in an asylum or in prison, whatever it is. They simply cannot cope with life in everyday civil society and they cannot function normally. And secondly, the passengers were justified in their actions. It led to an unfortunate situation, but when you have 40 prior arrests, many being assault, random, indiscriminate assault, unprovoked assault in the subway system and on the street, and when you're launching terroristic threats in a subway cart, well, what do you expect people to do? To simply stand by, idly by, as people are victimized and as a real tragedy possibly occurs? Absolutely not. Jordan Neely was 100% justified. We can clearly tell the intent here. The racial narrative is complete bogus, especially considering one of the individuals detaining Jordan Neely happens to be black, not to mention the individuals commenting from the back. I guess we're going in circles a little bit, but I feel like we really need to hammer the point. And the point is, Jordan Neely and those other passengers were justified, and AOC remains to be a terrible human being, a race hustler, and a grifter. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Of course, you know that we would love to have you here. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.